Long live HTML5, I guess. So like a lot of Neopets players, I've been taking the sunsetting of Flash very hard, and I'm not going to talk about that here because I have an original recording where I blabbed about it for like 30 minutes, and no one wants to hear that. So instead I'm just going to tell you that while I was feeling pretty bummed out that one of the touchstones from my childhood was now officially going away in the way that I'd known and loved it for so long, I looked for a silver lining, and that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to play Neopets on my tablet I'm gonna be honest, I said I was going to do it exclusively on my tablet for a week. I did not last that long. We'll talk more about that later, but that's not really the fault of the website. At least, not exactly. But in the interest of trying to stay positive and talk about the things that I do like while being honest about the things that I don't, I decided to make a pro and con list that's sort of a mini review of what it's like to play Neopets exclusively on a mobile device. So, let's go. So the first pro is obvious, but it's on my tablet, and I can't tell you how convenient that is for me. I do 90% of my computing not on a computer, not on a PC. My iPad does most of the things that I needed to do. I have a keyboard so that I can write on it. I do most of my drawing on it. I can browse the web, and the majority of the time, if I'm trying to hang back and relax and do something online, I'm doing it on my tablet. Like, I have a laptop, I just don't use it that often because my iPad is just right there. I think this is going to be more key for people who don't use the tablet the way that I do when they are out and about. I think that's what I'm going to be the most excited for the mobile ability to do in the future, but we will have to see. The first con is probably also the most obvious, the games. Okay, no wait, we have to put this at the end because like there's too much for me to talk about. I actually want to go through and review all of the games. So I'm going to do that later in the video, so put a pin in that. We'll talk more about the games later. Instead, we'll say the site feels incohesive. This is a major problem for me. Switching between the mobile redesign and the original site, which is a thing that happens now as not all the pages are converted yet, is really jarring. This lack of cohesion highlights the worst of both versions of the site, and it's just really frustrating to switch between the two. I find myself not wanting to leave the redesign to go back to the classic pages, even though those are the ones that I enjoy, and most of the fun gameplay happens on those. This is probably something that will be fixed with time, hopefully. Pro. I'm gonna get skewered for this, but I like the new homepage. I actually like the way it puts the pets front and center. I'm not saying that I particularly love the design of it, but I like the way that I'm able to do anything I need to do with my pets just by clicking on them and very easily clicking on feed or play or groom or customize, whatever. Before, there were a lot more links and pages you had to go through and more sub-menus to navigate. While the pets are not actually at the forefront of what players do on Neopets every day, they are like the glue that holds everything together, and they are arguably the most important part of the site. So having them just like right there on the homepage, easily feedable, is a really good idea, and I appreciate it a lot. Con. The customization is, I wrote wonky here, but that's not correct. The customization is broken. The Neopets team has addressed it, but basically, from what I can tell, if you have too many clothing items in your wardrobe, then it just doesn't function. Obviously, this sucks, but even if this wasn't happening, I have had multiple glitches in customization recently. When I leave the customization screen, she has all the clothes on. It's just when I'm on the customization screen, I can't see those items being worn by her. Obviously, these are the kinds of things that will hopefully be fixed as beta continues and they have time to fix the less game-breaking bugs. But for now, it's not great, and I know it's really impeding a lot of people's enjoyment of the site. Can you hear my dogs? Oh. Pro. I really like the new inventory screen. And for that matter, I like the new bank screen. I don't know why, I can't explain that one. But I can explain the new inventory screen. Something about the way it puts the items front and center, even though the items aren't exactly different from the way they were before. Items also stack now, which is incredible. Like, I noticed that I had 2 wet snowballs in my inventory, and there's just like a little icon that says 2 over them. So you can tell at a glance if you have duplicates how many you have in your inventory. That's really cool. I also really like the filtering system they have. You can filter by Neo points or Neo cash items, as well as filtering items by food, books, wearables, furniture, toys, etc. There's still a cap in the number of items you can keep in your inventory, so there's only so much that a filtering system can do. I mean, you don't really need a strong filtering system when you only have 50 items in your inventory. However, my suspicion is that they're going to be carrying this over to the safety deposit box, where it will be a lot more helpful. And if they use this filtering system on the safety deposit box, I will be thrilled. Also, since I recorded this footage, they added links on the inventory page to your quick stock page and your transfer list, so that's cool. Con, no plugins. Okay, so don't panic, this isn't strictly true, but hear me out. Originally, what I was going to have on here was that the shop wizard didn't work, or at least he didn't work the way that Neopians have come to expect him to work. Basically, you couldn't refresh results on the page like you used to be able to without just researching for the item you were looking for. People got really frustrated about it, and in my original draft of this video, I was going to suggest that people go out and download a plugin. So at least if you are on a computer and you're using a browser, you can use the plugin. The shop wizard will work the way that you want him to. However, the shop wizard has since been updated, but since this is a video about the way the mobile site works, I realized plugins just are not feasible for that. So that's my big con. Anyone who's watched my videos know I use a lot of plugins when I'm playing Neopets. Part of it is because the way that the original site was built is incredibly frustrating and wasn't very fun to play on sometimes. These conveniences are simply unavailable if you are using the mobile app. This will start to matter less and less as the Neopets team adds more quality of life improvements to the overall site, and I truly believe they will because of things like the aforementioned inventory sorting system or my next item, Pro, bookmarks. There is really not much that I can say about this. It's so simple. It's so awesome. I love the fact that from any page on the redesign, I can just click the bookmark button and look at all my bookmarks and then go to whatever page I want. This is especially helpful for when I'm playing on my tablet because unlike when I'm playing on a desktop browser, I don't keep a lot of tabs open. If I'm on my computer, then I can have like 8 tabs open and search through them for the one that I had open before, but like that's just a lot more difficult to do on mobile devices, or at least it is for me. So being able to go to any page with just the click of a button, especially pages that I use all the time, is just like super convenient and I like it a lot. And I really hope that by praising this aspect of the redesign, the Neopets team prioritizes quality of life changes, which I think everybody wants. Now we come to the big one, the one that cannot be ignored, the one that is just, I have no words, the games. If you go back to my first video from like 8 months ago where I first take a look at the mobile redesign, I am optimistic about the games. There are already 7 games available to play. And I took this as a positive sign that the Neopets team understood that people on this website enjoy playing the games and it's a core part of the experience for a lot of people. Flash forward to now, January 2021, and there are a grand total of 7 games, the same 7 games that launched back at the beginning of the beta. And listen, I understand it's not a high priority. They had a lot of pages that they needed to get done so that the website would be navigable by the time that Flash went down. And I get that. But that doesn't mean that this is not a huge disappointment to me. So what I'm gonna do real quick is go through and tell you what I think about these games. I'm just gonna rate them real quick and tell you why I like them or why I don't like them. Spoilers, for the most part, I don't like them. The fact is that I believe that these games had to be, reprogrammed from scratch, or at least close to from scratch, so they are different from their original counterparts. I am going to be reviewing them with an eye towards playing them on mobile, because that seems to be what the Neopets team was focused on doing, was making these games playable on mobile devices, for better or worse. So the very first game on the list, the first game that I tried on my tablet, was Tampermonkey, and it was, well, literally unplayable. After I select my difficulty, the very first thing that pops up is use arrow keys. I tried everything I could think of. I swiped my finger across the game screen, I pressed the sides of the screen, I even pressed the arrows that were on screen, and nothing happened. I was like, am I doing something wrong? I don't get it. Maybe the game's broken. I'm just not sure. And at the end of going through all of the rest of the games, I actually hooked up my Bluetooth keyboard just to see if it would work, and it did. So the good news is it plays like Turmac Roll, which is a game that I really enjoyed. The bad news is I can't play it unless I hook up my Bluetooth keyboard. So I'm going to give this literally a 0 out of 10 for being unplayable without a keyboard. If y'all know the secret, let me know, but I really don't think this is playable without a keyboard. So the next game is Fashion Fever, which is less of a game and more of a meme. In my original video for this, I joked that I was glad to see Fashion Fever back, and I'm gonna be honest, I still kind of am, just because it's so iconic. You can still do the thing, that is, you can still just like hit exit and submit your points and get Neopets, or at least you can theoretically. I got this error message a couple of times on a couple of different games. It seemed random. I don't know if it's those specific games or if it was just an issue that was happening on that day. Update. I just tried it again while recording this video and it's giving me the invalid session again. I think this might be just like an error with this game. It doesn't matter if I actually dress up a character or not, it just doesn't seem to like it. The next game is Hassy Bounce. So the thing about Hassy Bounce is that you use your finger to control the Hassies, which shouldn't be that big of a deal because in the original version of the game, you used your mouse cursor to control the Hassies. The Hassies will walk right if your mouse or finger is to the right of them and left if it's to the left, which was fine when I was using a mouse, but not so fine when I was using my finger. If you look at this gameplay, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm constantly struggling to get my finger over to the correct side of the screen, and so the Hassies will just like automatically walk to one side, the side that my finger is on. It's really difficult to explain why this is so hard to control. All I know is that it didn't feel very good, and a game that I used to be pretty good at is now a real struggle to play on mobile. So, you know, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. Ice Cream Machine. So you control this one with your finger too. You basically just drag the Chia around the screen with your finger and try to avoid the stuff. It's really great. It works super well. This was not one of my favorite games on Neopets before this, but it's probably my favorite one to play now. It works. It's kind of fun. Yeah, like 8 out of 10. Rink Runner. Rink Runner theoretically works just fine. Basically, the Bruce will skate in one direction to the location that you pressed on the screen. It's kind of a puzzle game that rewards you for catching the most notes in the fewest number of moves. Something about it just feels clunky. I think that there's maybe a little bit of lag or something, but it also doesn't help that I was never very good at this game to begin with. I've seen a couple of people reporting bugs that I haven't seen myself, but just for that, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Listen, it's not the game's fault and it's perfectly playable, so. Igloo Garage Sale. This one I do like. I also like that it, unlike some of the other games, has instructions for mobile devices. This is probably because it's a little unintuitive to play. Unlike the other games, you don't drag the Chia left and right with your finger. Instead, you press on either the left or right side of the screen to move the Chia in that direction. Which makes sense because in the original version of the game, you were using the keyboard. However, the part that is really weird is to make the Chia jump, you have to press on sort of like the top part of the screen. This was really unwieldy and difficult for me playing on an iPad, and I basically couldn't make the Chia jump and move at the same time. Like, I tried, and it was like a key factor in the way that I played the game before, but now it's too much of a struggle. It was also really inconsistent. Like, on the instruction page, it seems to indicate that the entire top half of the screen will force you to jump, but sometimes I would tap it and just like nothing would happen. I don't know if it's an issue with like multi-touch or something, or if it's just that the jump area is inconsistent. I don't know, but it made playing it a lot more difficult than I think it needed to be. But other than that, everything worked great, and I think I could submit my score on this one if I remember correctly. So, 7 out of 10. The last game on this list, and probably the reason that the entire games room is landing in the cons section of the mobile redesign, is Cast Basher. It is, for some reason, just awful now. There are two main reasons that I don't like Cast Basher right now. The first one is a little nitpicky, and it might have been fully intended by the developers. I don't know. In the original version of Cast Basher, every time you completed a round, it reset the entire level, which meant that everything was reset. The cast and the markers were reset, but the wind was also reset. This was really convenient. You could actually use this to your advantage by just dropping the cast down if the wind was unfavorable. And maybe that's why they made this change. Or maybe it was an accident. Because now, when you finish a round, the new round starts with the exact same wind that the last round ended with, even ignoring the fact that you can't really cheese the system anymore. It's frustrating to have a round that didn't go so well because you had bad wind, and then have that exact same wind starting the next round. I mean, you just have to wait for the wind to get good. Which, again, maybe is just intended and they wanted it to be this way, and fair enough, I guess, but it's just frustrating and a lot less fun to play. Because the second big change is that I really think the wind was changed. I think they made the wind a lot more powerful. It's always been that if the wind is negative, the cast will fly backwards, but I think it's just been multiplied somehow. If the wind is at -9 and you just let the cast fly, he will literally go back so far that it will scroll the screen to the right, which is something that the game is not supposed to do, which you can tell because the tree doesn't exist over here. Also, I forgot to say this the first time I recorded, but they got rid of the space bar. Like, you can't use the space bar anymore. Just let us use this. Why'd you take it out? They just removed the functionality entirely. What the heck? So yeah, Cast Basher is, for me, someone who played this game a lot, basically unplayable. I still have not unlocked hard mode on either my tablet or my desktop computer. Like, I feel like if I was patient enough, I could do it, but I don't understand why I have to be patient on what is essentially a really simple, fast arcade game. Why is patience coming up here? Okay. Okay, so I obviously talked way too much about Cast Basher, but hopefully now you understand my issues with the games. They're just a little wonky and off, and like, this is not heavy criticism. I say that with the full understanding that the Neopets team has a huge job in front of them, and I have every sympathy in the world for the fact that we expect so much from them, and I want my games to be great, and I want to have 100 of them to play, and I know that that's not fair to put on them. I just want to say that these are just my gut instincts while playing this. One thing that I've seen a lot echoed on the forums and elsewhere is that making Neopets playable on mobile devices is not the same thing as making Neopets for mobile devices. And it really seems like the Neopets team wants mobile to be its main market. And while I understand that because it's a very large market, it's contrary to the way the majority of us have played Neopets for years. And that, more than anything, is the reason that I stopped playing Neopets on my tablet during the week that I was only going to be playing Neopets on my tablet. Basically, at one point, I found myself in front of my computer working on something, and I was like, well, I mean, I have like 15 minutes. I should hop on Neopets because that's the way that I've done it for years now, and I find the time to do it that way. Most of the people who are talking about this on the forums have reiterated this idea that they play on their computers. I don't know if Neopets did any kind of survey or if they can tell the way that most people access their site, but I do think that deciding that the primary way that people are going to play your game now is contrary to the way that they've been playing it for decades. It just is counterintuitive, and it's going to take a long time for people to get used to that. But then again, I could be wrong. Maybe there are a lot of people who are adjusting to this really well. I'm trying. I mean, I gotta say, there are parts of it that I don't hate. Mostly the fact that I can wake up and hop on my tablet and be on Neopets first thing in the morning. That is so wonderful. Anyway, I want to hear from y'all. I fully plan on making more videos in this brave new Neopian world. I also have some other things lined up, browser game things, nostalgia content. I mean, to be honest, right now, it's just a matter of editing them down and getting them out to y'all. Let me know if you have any ideas for things you want to see in the future and what you think of the new Neopets site. And give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks, and for the rest of it, I hope you have a great day.